Hello, I am petroonishchuk. Today's third video from my series of videos where I try to create to-do app by using SwiftUI and Firebase. In this video, I want to add Firestore to our application. With Firestore, I want to hold information about our user. I want to use first name, last name, and email by using Firebase Firestore. This is a third part of my project. This means I already created two parts of this project. Start point or third part of my project is completed second part of my project. All my project you can find in my Git repository. Link to my Git repository I put below in description. And also in my Git repository I write description to all parts of my project. Okay, what I must do in this video? First I must add Firebase Firestore to my Xcode project. And also I must add Cloud Firestore to my Firebase project. This is our Firebase project, what we create on the first part of my video. And also I must make some change in my Xcode project. First I must add structure to our MyAppViewModel. Next I must add some methods to MyAppViewModel for work with Firebase Firestore. And also I must change UserView and also SignUpView. First I want to create user structure in my MyAppViewModel. With this structure will be create our user object, what will be called information of our user, what we create by using our SwiftUI and Firebase. First, I want to add user structure to my app model file. Then I'll be using this user structure for create a user object, what may hold information about our user, what we will be create by using our application. For example, I create user structure. My structure holds couple property: ID, first name, last name, and email. Then we'll be using this property in our application. Next, I want to make some change in my MyAppViewModel. This must be a biggest change in this video. After I make the change, I explain what I changed in my MyAppViewModel. And because in my MyAppViewModel I must work with Firebase Firestore, I must add Firebase Firestore in my Xcode project. And how I showed previously, we already add our Firebase in this application. We add our Firebase Analytics and also Firebase Authentication. And now I want to add another part of Firebase in Firebase Firestore. Now I'll show you how we can add this part in this Xcode project. Now you can see this is our Firebase Analytics and also our Firebase Authentication. And now in this field we can add our Firebase Firestore. We must tap plus and tap in Firestore. We select our Firebase Firestore and tap add. And now we add Firebase Firestore to our Xcode project. And because we add our Firebase Firestore to our Xcode project, we can work with Firebase Firestore through our view model. And now I move to our view model and make change in our view model. And now I want to explain what I'm changing in MyAppViewModel. First, I create a new property. First property, main user. This property must hold data about user who was signed in our application. And also I create a second property. Through second property, we will work with Firebase Firestore in our application. Next, I create a new method, take current user data. With this method, we will take data from our Firebase Firestore. First, inside this method, I take current user ID and also current user email. How you can see, for take our current user ID and current user email, we use Firebase Authentication.currentUser. This is the same when we check if our user signed in. This means we can only take our current user ID and current user email after our user signed in. We use authentication.currentUser.id. If our current user is nil, this means we can take our user ID and our property will be hold empty string. We do the similar work when we check if our user signed in. In our method isUserSignIn, we check if our user is signed in. We use authentication.currentUser. This means if our authentication.currentUser returns nil, this means our user not signed in, and our result property hold false value. If our result property hold false value, we assign value to this property user sign in to false. That means our selected content view will be displayed main login view for sign in or sign up in our application. If our property user sign in holds value true, that means we show view user view. We assign true or false value to our result property in this method. But in this method, we also use authentication.currentUser, but we want to take ID user and email user. If we have a nil, that means we assign empty string to our current user ID property and current user email property. Next, I want to create a link for work with our Firebase Firestore. This is our link for work with our Firebase Firestore. How you can see, I take our Firestore database tab collection users document and I assign for our document ID of our current user what we take from our authentication. That document current user ID means our document in our Firebase Firestore will have ID the same like our ID in our user what we create by using our Firebase authentication. Later I show you where you can find ID for your user what you create by using Firebase authentication, and also where you can find ID for your document in collection user in your Firebase Firestore. All this I want to show you in Firebase application. But now I want to resume explain this method. And after we create our link or document reference, how you can see this is type of document reference. We try to take our document reference .getDocument. Then we have our snapshot and error. First we check our error. If we have an error, that means we don't take any data, and we show our error by using our alert, what we create on the second video. And also we check our snapshot, because our snapshot is optional. We must also check. If we have an error, we also show alert with value snapshot is nil. And if all successful and our snapshot is not nil, that means our property user data hold document what we take from our Firebase Firestore. And then we using our user data and take first name from our document and also last name from our document. If we don't have first name or last name, we assign empty string. Next, we create a new property. We'll call our data, what we take from our Firebase Firestore and also what we take from our Firebase authentication. How you can see, for ID, we're using our current user ID because we take this property from our Firebase authentication and also we're using this property when we take our document from our Firebase Firestore. That means this property must be correct. If this property don't correct, we have an error in any step. Next, also we have a first name, what we take from our document from Firebase Firestore, and also we take a last name from our Firestore. And also we take email from our Firebase authentication. And on the end, we assign our new user property to our main user property, will hold our MyAppViewModel. And also, how you can see, we assign this value on the main thread, because we will be displaying this data in our user's view. But before we move to our user's view, I want to display what I changed in our method SignUp. This is our SignUp method. We will run this method when we want to create a new user in our application. For now, this method takes 4 parameters: first name, last name, email, and password. First, we check our email and password for create a new user. Then, we try to create a new user by using our Firebase Authentication, by using our email and password. We check our error. This all from the previously video. In this video, first I add these 2 parameters. This from the previous video, and also run Firebase Authentication also from the previous video. We check our result, and then this is our new code. First, I take our user ID. I take our user ID by using our main result.user.id. Our main result I take from our result when I create our user by using our Firebase Authentication. Because if our authentication is successful, our result must hold our user.id. Then I want to take email from our result.user.email. But how you can see in this example, we take from our main result our user ID. Because if our result is not nil, our result.user must have ID. But if our result is not nil, our result.user don't must have email, because we can make our authentication by using email, but we can also another method to make our authentication. That means we must check if our result.user have email. Check for email. This is from the previous video. If we have an error, we show our alert. And next we print sign in with email. That means we successfully create our user. Next, we try to save our user in our Firebase Firestore. This is our new code, what I add on this video. Next, to save data in our database, we using our property tab collection, because we will save our user in collection users in our Firebase Firestore. Next, I show you where this collection placed in our Firebase Firestore. Next, after we select collection, when we want to save our document with data about our new user, we're using our .document user ID. That means our users will be saved in document with ID user's ID, with ID from our user, what we take when we create our user by using our authentication create user. We take this ID from our result. How you can see, result, main result, and user ID. And we assign this ID like our ID for our user, what we create in our Firebase Firestore. And then we set data, first name, last name, and email. And after we try to assign data to our document in our Firebase Firestore, our closers can return an error. And we check if we have an error. If we have an error, that means we not successful save data in our Firebase Firestore. If our error is nil, that means all successful. And on the end, if all successful, we check if we sign in our application, and also we back to our root script. And also I make some change in our isUserSign-in. This is our method isUserSign-in. First we check if we sign in by using our authentication.currentUser. And then this is our new code. If our result is true, we run our method take current user data. We run this method to take data from our Firebase Firestore. We run this method to take data from our Firebase Firestore. We take data, first name and last name. And also we create a new user inside this user to our main user property. And then will be displayed data from this main user property in our user's view. And now, after we take data from our current user by using this method, on the end, in main queue, we assign our result.isUserSign-in. That means if our user sign in, we assign value true and we back to our user's view. That means our user's view must display data what we take by using our take current user data. And now I must change UserView and also SignUpView, because for now our SignUpView must hold text field for typing first name and last name what we must save in our Firebase Firestore. For example, First, I want to explain what I'm changing inside UserView. First, I change form to list. Inside the list, I create a two section. First section holds our first name and last name from our main user, and also I have a section that holds our email from our main user. Our main user property holds our view model. This is our view model. Inside our view model, we have this property main user, and we display the data that holds this property. We assign data to this property. We assign data to this property by run our method take current user data. How you can see, inside this method, we take data from our Firebase Firestore, and on the end, we create our user and assign this new user to our main user property and hold our view model. This is all what I am changing in our user view. Next, I also make change inside SignUpView. How I said previously, I use SignUpView for create a new user in our application. And now I want to explain what I changed inside SignUpView. First, I add two new properties, first name and last name, and also I add two new text fields. These two text fields work with our two new properties, fulfill our first name and also fulfill our last name. We must fill our first name and last name when we want to create a new user in our application. And also in our section, when we have our button for start to create our new user, we run our method SignUp from our view model. And now our method SignUp take two new parameters, first name and last name. We take data for our two new parameters by using our two properties what I explained previously. We fill these two properties by using our text field, and then we tap button for start to create our new user, and we take our first name and last name. And also, how you can see, I only can create our new user when our first name, last name, email and password is not empty. In this line of code, I check if our first name, last name, email and password is not empty. If this variable is empty, that means we can tap our button. Our button will be disabled. But when we fill all this property, our button must be enabled. And we can tap our button for start to create a new user in our application. But when we fill all this property, first name, last name, email and password, our button must be enabled. And we can tap to this button for start to create a new user in our application. And also with cancel button, we can clean our email and password, and also for now we can clean our first name and last name. That means after we tap this button, our property must be empty. And now move to our Firebase project. And when you move to Firebase console, you can see list of projects what you create previously. And now we select our project what we create in our first video to do app 01. When I select Firebase Authentication, I see my user what I create in first video with my email. And now add our Firebase Firestore. This is our Firebase Firestore. Now I must tap button Create Database. You can watch some video about Firebase Firestore, and also we have some features what we can use it with Firebase Firestore. Tap this button Create Database. And now when we tap Create Database, we have two options. Start with production mode and also start with test mode. When we select first or second variant, main difference between test mode and production mode is our rules. With this rule, in test mode, anyone can read and write data in this database through the next 30 days. But we can also put these rules in our production mode. That means we can select our production mode and take this rule from our test mode, put this rule in our production mode. That means through our production mode, anyone can read and write data in our database through the next 30 days. But also we can change this data or make another change inside our rule. In this example, I take our production mode, and then later on this video and also in another video, I will be make change in the rule in our database. That means for now I select our production mode, and then I will make some change in our rules, and then after make some change in rules in our database, I show you how this rule works. For now, I select our production mode. Select Enable. This is our Firestore database. For now, our Firestore database is empty because for now we don't save any data in our Firebase Firestore. And now I want to run our simulator, try to create a new user, and after I try to create a new user by using our Firebase authentication, we must also save data about this user in our Firebase Firestore, for example. And now I want to make some change in rules. With these changes, what these rules mean? These rules mean only authentication users can read and write data in this Firestore database. How to create security rules in new Firebase Firestore we can find in Firebase documentation. I use the simple rules. With these simple rules, I give ability to read and write data in Firebase authentication for all authenticated users. Link to this documentation I put below in description. And now I run our application and try to create a new user with first name and last name by using our Firebase authentication. And also, after I create our user by using Firebase authentication, I must save data, first name and last name in our Firebase Firestore. I run an application. This is our main login view. Now I move to our SignUp view to create a new user. This is our SignUp view. And how you can see, we have first name and last name. This is new two fields what we add in this video. Fulfill our first name and last name. And also we have email and password. And our button Sign Up is disabled until we fill these fields. But before I create a new user, I move to our Firebase application. Select our Firebase authentication. This is our first user what we create in first video with my email. And now I delete this email. Now we don't have any user in our Firebase application. Now I try to create a new user again. And now after I fill this field, I tap button Sign Up to create a new user in our Firebase application. First you can see our Xcode print Sign Up with email. This means we successfully create user in our application. This is our function sign up. After we successfully create our user, on the end we print our sign up with email and our email. That means we successfully create our user. After we successfully create our user, we try to save our user by using our Firestore database in our collection user and put to our Firestore database first name for our user Petro and last name Onishchuk and email. And after we try to save data in our Firebase Firestore, we check an error. If we have an error, we print an error. If we have an error, we show alert with our error. But we don't have any alert. That means we also successfully save data in our Firebase Firestore. On the end, we run method isUserSignIn. First, we check if our user is authenticated by using our Firebase authentication.current user. If our user is authenticated, that means this property holds true value. Then we check if our result property holds true value, we run method takeCurrent user data. With this method, we take data from our Firebase Firestore. Having said previously, we put data in our Firebase Firestore when we try to create our user by using our method SignUp. After we print this email. That means we don't have an error with successful data in our Firebase Firestore. And then with this method, we take this data from our Firebase Firestore by using our current user ID and also current user email. Make reference something like link to our document, take this document, and after we work this document, what we take from our Firebase Firestore, we assign data from this document in our new property, new users, and at the end we assign this property to our main user property in our view model. With this method, we assign value in our main user property, what we take from our Firebase Firestore. Next, inside our main queue, we assign value to our user sign in. That means if we successfully authenticated in our application, we assign true value to our property is user sign in. That means our property user sign in holds value true. This method we run in our sign up method. Next, after we run this method, we run method back to root script. When we run this method, we back to our root screen by using our path. This path we using in our navigation stack. After we run this method, we return to our selected content view. This is our selected content view. After we run this method, we return to our root content view. Our root content view have our navigation stack, and inside this navigation stack we have only one view, selected content view, and our selected content view display or our users view or our main login view. And now again, our root content view is our root view. After we run method back to root screen, that means we back to our root content view. Our root content view holds our navigation stack. Our navigation stack uses our path what holds our view model. And when we run this method back to root screen, we back to our root screen by using our navigation stack, by using path what we put in our navigation stack. I can see we use this path in our navigation stack. And then our navigation stack holds one view, selected content view. That means when we back to our root screen view, we must display view, selected content view. But what data hold our selected content view? Let's move to this view. This view can display a two type of view, source view, users view, and also main login view. Our selected content view displays users view if our user sign in is true. I can see I check. If our user sign in is true, that means we display our users view. If not, we display our main login view for sign in or sign up to our application. And because we successfully create our new user and sign in with this data in our application, our user sign in hold value true. That means we display our users view. This is our users view. Our user view holds a two section. First section will hold our first name and last name will hold our main user property from our view model. And also we have a section will hold our email. As I explained previously, our main user property hold data what we take from our Firebase Firestore. That means our data from our Firebase Firestore, first name Petro, last name Onishchuk. This is data what we put when we try to create a new user. That means we save successful our first name and last name. And now we display this data in our application and also our email. And now move to our Firebase application. This is our Firebase application authentication section. Now we must reload our section. We must have our user what we create previously. We have our user what we create previously. Email create January 1st, sign in January 1st. And also we have our user ID. And also we must have our first name and last name in our Firebase Firestore. In collections users. Move to our Firebase Firestore. We move to our Firebase database. This is our Firebase Firestore. And as you can see, we have our collection users. Move to our MyAppViewModel. Inside our method SignUp. After we successfully create a new user by using our Firebase authentication, we try to save our data in our Firebase Firestore in collection users. When we first time run this method, we don't have any collection users. And because we don't have any collection users, our Firebase Firestore create automatically this collection users. And now we add a new document with ID, user ID. This is user ID from our user from our Firebase authentication. This means ID of this document will be the same like ID of our user in our Firebase authentication. And next section is our document. This document holds our value, email, first name and last name. This means we successfully save data in our Firebase Firestore. And now we move to our Firebase authentication and look if ID of our user in Firebase authentication the same ID like in our document in our user collection would hold data for our user. This is ID of our document. This is ID of our user in our Firebase authentication. We have the same ID. That means when we want to take data from our Firebase Firestore, we'll be take this data by this ID. We save data in our Firebase Firestore in document with ID of our user from our Firebase authentication. This is our ID. And inside our user, we have document with this ID. That means when we create another user in our Firebase authentication and hold data about this user in our Firebase Firestore, for example, ID of our second user will be 555. That means document will hold data about this second user must be 555. And now I try to create a second user by using our Firebase authentication and Firebase Firestore. And ID of our document related to our second user must be the same like ID in our Firebase authentication. First, we create our user by using Firebase authentication. And next, we take ID of our user, what we create by using our Firebase authentication. And by using this ID, we save a document with this ID in our user collection in our Cloud Firestore. And now you can see I create a second user. First name Tom, second name Tom, and email Thompson555 gmail.com. And also our Xcode project display sign in with email Thompson555. That means we successfully create our new user by using Firebase authentication. And also because our user screen display first name and last name, that means we successfully save data in our Firebase Firestore. Then we take this data from our Firebase Firestore and display in our user screen. This is our Firebase Firestore. And now our user collection holds two documents. First document for my email. Second document for our second user, Thompson555 gmail.com. First name Tom, last name Thompson. And now move to our Firebase authentication. This is our Firebase authentication, and we have our new user, Thompson555 gmail.com, and our user ID XBSSV. And now we move to our Firebase Firestore and select our document. As you can see, this document have ID XBSSV. That means we have the same ID like in our Firebase authentication. That means we successfully save data in our document. And then when we want to take data about this user, we take our ID from our Firebase authentication. That means we can find this user by this ID in our Firebase Firestore. This is the end of my short video about SwiftUI and Firebase. In this video, I try to show you how you can add Firebase Firestore in your application. And also, in this video, I try to show you how you can make basic stuff by using your SwiftUI, Firebase authentication, and also Firebase Firestore. How I said previously, this is a short video from my series of videos about SwiftUI and Firebase. Next video is video number 4. And because I want to create a to-do app, in video number 4, I want to start work with tasks. On video number 4, I want to create ability to create a list of tasks for each user in this application. This means each user would create account in our application must have ability to create a to-do list or list of tasks. And on the next video, I must add this list of tasks by using Firebase Firestore. All completed projects of my series of videos you can find in my Git repository. Link to my Git repository I put below in description. This is the end of my short video. Next, fourth video about SwiftUI and Firebase I try to create in short time. This is the end. Thank you for watching.